officially the end of that. End of the road for van life. The consulate said, oh, hang on a minute, although you've been accepted, you might have a problem with the CEF, so they might actually then decline you again, and then you're back to square one and we'd have to move back to England. So we're like, oh my God, didn't actually know whether we would still be able to stay in Portugal. Welcome back to another episode of Wednesday Wildlands Waffles, where we waffle to you about all things Wildlands, and tonight we have two sagas for you.
One is sad, and the other is less so.
Stay tuned and find out what the two sagas are.
First, the saga of the sub, our van.
It's very, very sad. Some time back we were off shopping, as we normally do once a week, from the Wildlands into Castelo Branco, and on the way we stop at the bins, which is about halfway, which is 10 minutes from here. We pulled in at the bins to empty our rubbish, and as we were coming back from the bins we noticed that we had an oil leak. It wasn't just a little oil leak, it was what I would have called a biblical oil leak, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. So there was oil gushing out all over the floor, so I was a little bit concerned. So I had a choice. I could limp back to the Wildlands and then see if I could get somebody out here, or we could go into Castelo Branco, which was just as far as the Wildlands, and see if we could make it there and get to a garage.
We decided to go into Castelo for the garage because that seemed cleverer. There was obviously an issue, we needed to get it fixed. There was a garage there. Yep.
So we got back in the van and we started driving to Castelo Branco, and we got just literally a minute or two from the bins. And what we now know, but what was happening at that time, was the turbo had failed and it sucked all of the oil out of the sump and shot it out of the exhaust behind the van, basically emptying the entire oil from the sub's engine all over the road. And this happened very, very fast, so the van stopped working literally immediately. So we called Martin to see what he thought, as he's slightly more mechanical than myself. He came out, had a look, and said it was the seal on the sump and that he could probably fix that. It was very easy, or we could get a second-hand turbo from the scrapyard.
We're having a little problem. Van's got an oil leak. Went chugga, 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 bang. So lovely Martin has come to help us. And his little car is going to pull our big fat van to safety.
So we then spoke to other friends, John and Nicola, who very kindly towed the sub back to the land, where we thought, great, we'll get ourselves a new turbo, all will be well. However, what had actually happened is so much oil had been discharged from the engine that the engine has seized entirely. So the sub has no engine, it's not repairable. And we've done some research, and in Portugal, the cheapest engine that we could find was 4,500 euros. Plus labour at about 1,000 euros, plus getting it to wherever there is an available engine, and the engines are not very common. So the nearest engine I could find was also 2 hours away, which is another 200 to 300 euros to get it towed there. So we're looking about 7,000 euros just to get the sub back to where she was previously.
Plus in that time, if we were to send it off and get it towed to some garage to have work done on it, we're without a home. Yep. Because obviously that's where we are at the moment with all of our cats and dogs and stuff, so it's not brilliant.
No. However, the other complication, which we've mentioned briefly in previous videos, is obviously, as we have been in Portugal for some time, at some point we would need to legally matriculate the van, which in English means taking it from UK plates registering it as a Portuguese van and getting Portuguese plates. However, because it's a self-build, that process is not very easy, very, very expensive. We had a quote and it was going to cost about 4,000 or 5,000 euros to matriculate the van. So if you add on the engine, you're looking about 12,000 to 13,000 euros to get the van from where it was to exactly back where it was again, but legally for Portugal. So A, we don't have 13,000 euros, and B, we decided that the matriculation was just too much money, too complicated, so we're going to beach the van, which is kind of what we decided before, but it would have been nice if the van was drivable, so if we ever wanted to leave or go on holiday, we could nip out of Portugal and do so, but we now can't do that. So the sad news is the sub as a drivable vehicle is no more. RAP the sub. Still very sad. However, the upside is she's still our home while we decide what to do with our ruin on the Wildlands and whether to convert that into a proper house. So at least we still have a lovely place to sleep and to live in, and we still love her, and she looks after our cats who also sleep in the van with the dogs as well. So the end of the road, as they say, for the sub. And the sub will be retired and will become our house on the Wildlands, and in the long term, when we have another house here, we will use the sub as guest accommodation for family and friends to come and stay.
And so, as well as being the end of the road for the sub, it's the end of our travels, because there can't be any travelling in the van because it doesn't drive. So that's officially, I mean, we haven't travelled for 18 months, we've been here on the land, but it's officially the end of that.
The end of the road for van life for those weirdos and the Wildlanders.
Unless we should ever get a van some point in the future. That's that.
So we're now static and on the Wildlands, which leads us on to saga number 2, doesn't it?
Saga number 2, the saga of the Seth. Last Thursday we had our appointments at the Seth to get our residency. They were booked for us by the consulate, the Portuguese consulate in London. So we had no say in where they were going to be or what time they would take place. And they kindly booked them for us in Lisbon, which was, like a 2.5 hour to 3 hour drive from where we live. Even as a SEF office in Castelo Branco, we had to go to Lisbon, and they thought it would be very clever to book them for 9 o'clock in the morning. So that was interesting, especially without a van. We had to get up at 4:30 in the morning to get across there in time. And our good friend Paul, who has helped us out immeasurably since the van died a death, drew the short straw and got to take us all the way to Lisbon. So the poor chap had to get up at 4:30 and came over to pick us up and drove us through the dark to Lisbon. So thank you so much, Paul.
I think I definitely owe you a lot of beer, and I will provide that very soon for you, young man. So just for those of you that are either new to the channel or haven't watched us for a while, just a bit of a catch up on our visa situation. So we applied for our D7 national visa from the UK on the back end of lockdown in February 2¼ years ago, so 2 years, 3 months ago. And generally speaking, visas take around 90 days from applying to approval, assuming you're going to be approved. So our first visa was declined. We appealed, that was declined. We had all kinds of protractions with that. We then appealed to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, which is your last appeal line, and our appeal got lost, and there was all kinds of issues. So the consulate in London, who were very helpful, despite the fact obviously our first application had been lost, we reapplied, so we all flew back to London.
That was last September.
Yep. And we all reapplied, and then we all flew back to the Wildlands, because whilst you have a visa under application, it's not a problem to stay on your property in Portugal. So we did that, and we got declined again. And we were declined on the basis that we didn't have enough passive income or money in the bank, and that there was a problem with living on our land. So we spoke to an immigration lawyer, and firstly, we had more than the required amount of money in the bank, so that didn't make sense. And secondly, we had a habitation license on our land, and we confirmed locally with the mayor and the camera that it was legal for us to live on our land, which it was. So then we got Carolina, our immigration lawyer, who's been absolutely fabulous, and she looked at our case and said, absolute rubbish. Obviously somebody at the CEF has misunderstood your application somehow. I'll sort that out. I'll write them a letter, which she did. And sure enough, very soon after that, we were accepted.
We
and
got
we're like,
our visas approved.
So we came out on YouTube, we told all you guys, yay, we got our visa, it's all great, ha la la la, woohoo. Then, when Missy flew back again with her passports to the consulate in London, which we'd arranged with them so they could put our visa permit in, the passports, the consulate said, oh, hang on a minute, although you've been accepted, you've only actually got the permit to travel to Portugal to get your visa, and because you've appealed, and it's a very rare case for an appeal to be overturned and for the applicant to win the appeal, you might have a problem with the CEF, so they might actually then decline you again, and then you're back to square one and we'd have to move back to England. So we're like, oh my God. So we played that down because we didn't really want to be negative, but the bottom line was on April the 20th, when we travelled to the CEF at 4:30 in the morning, we didn't actually know whether we would still be able to stay in Portugal.
So from January 20th, we had 3 months of nail biting and worry, didn't we?
Yeah.
And we decided that it would be a very clever thing for us to invite Carolina to come to the appointment with us, which she did, which was wonderful. We just thought it would be safe to have backups. We knew that we fulfilled all the criteria. We had all of the relevant paperwork, had the money in the bank, had everything we needed. We thought if we take Carolina, who speaks much better Portuguese than us, being Portuguese, and as it turned out, once we'd gotten there and we were on time and that was all fine, she kind of took over. She went and got the ticket that tells you which appointment that you get, and then she took all of our paperwork for us and took it into the office and told us to just sit in the waiting room.
And we're like,
and we just sat on our chairs and waited. And she took the paperwork and she went through all of that. I don't even know what they asked her, what they wanted to look at, because we weren't in the room. And then she called us in after about 10 minutes, and we had our photos taken and our fingerprints taken and did a couple of signatures, and they said,
all done.
That. They didn't ask us anything.
No interview.
No interview, no questions, no nothing. So whatever Carolina did the trick.
Yeah, it was fabulous. Yeah, I mean, literally, it was so straightforward, so we needn't have been worried at all.
Nuh-uh.
And Carolina said they had no information of your appeal. Basically, all your documentation was in order, which it always had been. That's the ironic thing about it all, yeah. But hey, hey. So they took our paperwork, rubber stamped it. Our biometric cards will be out in the next couple of weeks. So as of April the 20th, we are Portuguese residents.
Officially residents, and not just residents of Portugal, but residents of our land, yep. On this address, which is flipping magic. We officially live here, legally, properly, done.
Absolutely.
For 2 years, and then we can reapply. But the reapplication process is apparently really super simple, and you just do it online, so we don't have to worry about that. And then after 5 years, we can apply for Portuguese nationality if we want. And you have to take a Portuguese language test, but after 5 years, I would imagine that we would be speaking Portuguese anyway. And that's that. And then we would have, you can have dual nationality with Portugal and the UK. So that's what we're going to do, isn't it?
It is.
So we, now that we're official, we're throwing ourselves into
gardening.
Gardening. Yeah, we can trust that we won't get booted out. We won't have to leave. And thank goodness, because if that had failed, we couldn't have driven away in a van anyway, could we?
No, I was thinking that, and I was trying to be positive because I believe in manifesting positivity, but in the back of my mind, my old self, the little demon that's sitting on your shoulders going, oh, you're going to get turned down, how are you going to leave? What are you going to do? You've got no van. So our visa is for the Wildlands. We have a habitation licence, we can live here legally. That was so exciting for us, wasn't it? That it's a visa for here, and we've now got a very helpful postman. So all the post that is required to come to this address legally for the visa, which is our biometric cards, will come to this address, and the postman will drop them to our friend in the village, and we can collect them, and it's job done on our biometric cards as well.
Hooray!
Woo.
The end of the saga. Over 2 years.
So all you can expect going forward is positivity in gardening. And maybe the odd bit of building.
So what's next for the Wildlanders? We're currently still working on our food forest. We've been planting lots of plants out, potting lots of seedlings on, and working on getting some irrigation systems in, ready for the summer heat.
It's been very exciting putting in the irrigation, and yesterday I finished my banana circle. I'm really excited about that, and I can't wait to show you guys in a future video how that's looking.
It looks so good. And I'm going to do some more tweaks and additions to the chicken emporium to get them ready for the summer as well. Oh,
and we've got an automatic door to fit on the chickens.
Have.
That'll be another video as well. That's really exciting.
It'll be a whole chicken-centric video.
Yep. One thing I forgot to mention in the van saga was that obviously we've been stuck on the land, got no vehicle because our only vehicle was the sub. So we again relied very heavily on the help of friends. So thanks so much to everyone that helped us out, particularly Paul, who took you shopping every week for about 6 or 7 weeks. So it was quite a long time while we were deciding what to do. But we found a car. I was a little bit concerned about buying a car. So actually we've got a very old car. She's nearly 30 years old. It's a Renault 19, but
so
she's
cute.
Absolutely fabulous. She's only got 52,000 kilometres on the clock. Very, very low mileage. She's been really well looked after, and she drives just as well as my nearly new car in the UK. It's so smooth, so lovely, so an absolute bargain. Really chuffed with that. So we're just using the car literally for a little run around to go to the shops and back and to the lakes and back. Later on in the year we have found a 4-wheel drive that we're going to buy off some friends, but they're not ready to sell it until September. So we've got our little old banger who we've called Rita. Rita
the Renault.
That's it, Rita the Renault.
So cute.
So before we go, just a little waffle about sponsorship. We sometimes use sponsorship to help us with our income. I know some of you are quite negative about sponsorship and others are very accepting. So tonight's episode was very kindly sponsored by BIGBLUE. And BIGBLUE are new arrivals on the power bank market, and they've got a fabulous range of power banks. And we were given the Cellpowa 600 to test out, and it is really, really cool. And I really like it. So let me show you now. Ever find yourself cut short, running out of power? Then you need BIGBLUE. Cellpowa 600 is perfect for all those off-grid jobs requiring some power. Simply perfect for off-gridders, van lifers, all outdoor hobbies alike. So when you need some portable power, you need a Cellpowa, a BIGBLUE. Get yours now.
So that's it for another episode of Wednesday Wildland Waffles. And you're all caught up now. That's the end. No more dramas, no more sagas, just gardening.
You probably noticed over the last 3 months that there's been very little drama. We made a conscious decision that we wanted to get away from any kind of perceived negativity and the kind of clickbait stuff that's going on so much on YouTube now. So it's literally all positivity and light wherever possible on the Wildlands. So thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you very soon for some more Wildlanders, waffles, and probably a lot of gardening.
See you soon. Bye.